Welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, hear untold stories, and explore the brilliant minds behind some of the finest ambient music out there. I'm your host, Mike Graff. I'm excited to be in this together with you. Let's get going. Again, welcome to the podcast, everybody. My name is Mike Graff, and I make music as Dear Gravity. It is amazing to be here together with you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really excited for you to get the chance to hear from Chris Bartels of Sonant. But before we dig into that conversation, I, of course, want to say a big thank you to the premier music licensing site for all things ambient and cinematic music. Of course, I'm talking about All Ambient. If you're a creator that doesn't want to dig through an endless catalog of music that might not be the best fit, All Ambient is the perfect licensing site for you. All Ambient has expertly curated song bundles that are all designed around a unique theme to fit your film, video, or project perfectly. And there's no annual subscription fee either. You only pay for what you need. It is a great solution for your music licensing needs. Go check it out at all-ambient.com. That's all-ambient.com. If you stick around, we do have an exclusive promo code for our podcast listeners that we'll share in just a little bit. My guest today makes music as a variety of different monikers, and I love each and every one of them. This guy is the best. He's also a fellow Minnesota native. I am privileged to have the chance not only to talk with him on the podcast, but to do a little bit of real life with him as well. His ambient moniker Sonant is foundational to multiple pieces released on the Slow Echo label that are just breathtaking in a new and fresh way. But we're going to dig into that and a whole lot of other things. I cannot wait for you to hear from Chris Bartels of Sonant. Let's do it. Here we go. Well, my guest today, it would be hard to sum up an introduction to him in not only just one sentence, but one moniker. This guy has so many facets and so many different projects that he works on, and all of them are beyond incredible. And I don't say that to puff him up. I genuinely love so many things that this guy has created. And I'm thrilled that one of those creations, Sonant, is bringing him to the All Ambient podcast today. Chris Bartels, welcome to the All Ambient podcast, man.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited. It is kind of funny because we're doing the virtual hang. We are recording this remotely, but we probably didn't need to, did we? We're close enough to each other where I just decided to go the lazy road and boot up the
Saved a few bucks on gas today.
Well, sure. That is true. But
a few bucks.
But I'm really glad and grateful that we do happen to be close enough where we get to, and we choose to rub shoulders every once in a while and all that up here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. Yeah, man. So glad you're here. I don't even want to pigeonhole like where this is going to go. There's going to be so much fun stuff to cover, but let's just kind of start back at the beginning, dude. Like, what did the early stages of music creation look like for you? Or not even creating it, but just how music got baked into your system and when you started realizing like, whoa, this is going to be a part of my life. What did the early stages look like for you?
I mean, I didn't start playing music till I was 16. Started playing guitar then. I was bored on a summer day and picked up my brother's guitar that he was trying to learn. And I started to learn it.
Yeah.
And then that's when it was like, okay, this is going to be a part of my life. Like, wow. Immediately I was obsessed. Been obsessed ever since. I mean, before that, I always loved music. I think I would like, the memories I remember of music would be for sure spinning the CD players on road trips as a kid. We'd go to Kansas City a lot. I had family and I would just play the CDs over and over and over. And I'd like imagine myself being like playing. What else? Like when I was really young, jock jams in the living room, like dancing around whatever it was. Probably special for my, for my mom to witness that, stuff like that. So, but I look back on that and I go, okay, so that was maybe me dreaming of being a musician or dreaming of performing or whatever. But I don't remember having that mindset at all until I started learning guitar when I was 16.
Yeah.
So.
And then it just shot straight up the priority list. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember ever thinking of doing anything else with my life ever since like being a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And I dabbled around in college, like thinking, oh, you can't become a musician as a career, like whatever. It's just like having this built in, like, oh, I should probably get a degree doing something else. And then,
yeah, whoever said that too. Yeah.
but then I don't even know if anybody did. I think it was just like built in, maybe, I don't know, or just culture. But then eventually I was just like, nope, I'm not going to do anything else with my life, Yeah. So from then on, it's just been a roller coaster ride, a journey.
Man, and a journey that, to be fair, like I don't want to talk about all of your multiple monikers as though there is not enough importance or enough value to any one of them that you could just do one, but you've really made an art out of this multi-practice moniker thing, Chris. And for anyone who isn't already aware, which I'm sure there's plenty of people who are, but you are the mastermind behind not just Sonant, which has some incredible stuff on all ambient, but also to look at all the work you've done through Elskavan, through Blurstem, through Bora York with your lovely wife, Rebecca, with Lumato, with, just a whole bevy of different people who are showing up on that. I mean, and I'm, there are Mum Child, good grief. There's so many. There's probably like 24 more, like literally 24 more that aren't even coming to mind right now. But you've created this world for yourself where it seems like any particular musical idea or creative idea that you have, there's going to be a lane for it. And if a lane doesn't already exist, then the thought is like, well, I guess it's time to make another lane, or let's widen the road even a little bit more. That's just such a cool thing, man. And I hope that that's inspiring to a boatload of people. Tell me a little bit more about that, though. Maybe we're just kind of digging in right away on that. Like was there a conscious thought process to that as it first started unraveling as you, and maybe go back to the beginning of that, like what moniker was kind of the launch point and then how it started stemming out from there. But was there more strategy to it than the eye lets on, or was there really kind of an organic, like, I just want to make stuff and I guess I just want to put it out there, like walk through that? And I know little bits and pieces of the story, but let's flesh the whole thing out.
Yeah, it all just kind of happened. There's never a strategy of like, I want to be the multi-moniker guy, like, because that's not super unique. There's plenty of people nowadays with multiple projects and side projects, monikers, whatever. It just happened because I like writing music in different realms. So like, I mean, when I was first starting to write and record music, it was just like, I'm just writing songs.
Yeah.
But I did always like have a dream of expanding on and releasing songs. And back then it was like, I want to have my own CD.
Oh yeah.
So that was always part of it. And then like having bands in high school, and there was always kind of like the main thing for a while, the band with friends, etc. And then Elskavan is my longest standing at this point moniker.
Yep.
And I would consider it one of my main monikers, one of my main creative babies, if you will.
Yeah.
And that was the very first, I guess, side project per se. At least that's what I thought of it as, like a side project, because I had my band at the time, which is like, okay, this is what I do. I do the band thing, know, which I love, But then I love this instrumental stuff. Love ambient music.
Yeah.
Even if when I first started, I probably didn't even necessarily hear that term very much, ambient.
Sure.
Or it wasn't in the same context we think of it today in this world. There probably weren't a lot of ambient podcasts, focused podcasts. Anyways, so Elskavan was like, okay, this is in my mind, a side project, which is kind of fun because it's just like, I think just by nature, it was way more low key for me in the sense of like what it should be or should look like or whatever. So that was my putting the first Elskavan album out just digitally. Well, no, I did CDs. As
you had to fulfill that dream, man, right?
I had to, and I had done like an EP or whatever with bands before. But this is the first full length in 2011. And I just like put it out on Bandcamp mostly and then did CDs and stuff like that. And then figured out, okay, I'd distro with CD Baby or whoever I was doing. So real low key. And then so it's just kind of like that. But then I loved it so much. The next year I wrote another album. Each one kind of like expanding on things. So the first album was definitely modern classical, some ambient stuff. The second one was more ambient, I would say, more layers and less specific instrumentation parts, song forms, if you will. The third one was like way more almost like post-rock elements and definitely thicker, heavier. There's some drums. So anyways, that was like the beginning of, okay, this side project. And then that's also like the first bands that kind of fizzled. And that's when Bora York became a thing in that realm as well. So Bora York was the band that was like the main thing. So that lasted for a while. And then, and then it just started like, I just started writing more music, collaborating with people. I would say Hi-Fi Cali was the next probably like side project. And
I don't even know Hi-Fi Cali. Tell me.
Yeah. So it was like, maybe I had kind of buried that project when you and I met, or at least started like hanging out more.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. But like, so from there, I had Bora York, quote unquote, main thing, Elskavan, quote unquote, side project. But they're kind of like fizzling, and I would have different lane times of interest for each. Then from there, it just kind of like started to expand, and I can like pinpoint each moniker as to why, or like my decision to like do a new thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just like, just happen. Like, so Hi-Fi Cali, for example, pop, but very electronic focused, whereas Bora York is pop and it's electronic, but it's a little more. Hi-Fi was more like, there was some instrumental, was like, I was just having fun, dabbling in synths and samples a lot more than I had at that time. And then, so here's what happened with Hi-Fi, for example, is we're going to play a Bora York show, but we couldn't as a full band. But then I still wanted to like help out this, or open for this band that was touring. So it was just ended up being me and Bjorn, my drummer in Bora York at the time, to play. So we played some Bora York songs. We even played some Elskavan songs, but then I had these other songs that I had initially written just for licensing. Hi-Fi Cali songs, like the electronic stuff. We had a lot of fun doing that. And then we like started playing more shows. And then we really expanded on the project as far as like what we were trying in Ableton with live lights synced up to our Ableton set. And like Bjorn was doing cool stuff with his drum pad and samples. And we were just like stretching ourselves, not just creatively, but technologically, I guess. Yeah. So that was like how that was. And I won't list everyone, and this is why, but just like a
lot of it. You go as far as you want, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, okay, Blur Stem. One more is just like, I was writing so much songs on piano, maybe a few years later after Hi-Fi Cali I started. So Blur Stem was kind of like an extension of Elskavan in that I was writing a lot of stuff on piano because we had just bought a house and I finally had an actual piano that I could use whenever I wanted, right? Yeah. Just an old 50s Wurlitzer piano.
It's amazing.
And I got it tuned, was felting it here and there. I was just like in love with like this new thing, you know, it's an old piano, but a new thing, a new opportunity to be able to play real piano, mess with the sound, you know, there's like actual mics, you know, trying different things in the room, stuff like that. It was just like so inspiring. I was writing a ton on piano. And then I just was like, I don't necessarily want Elskavan to be overwhelmingly piano based. Sure. Yes, piano is a big part of Elskavan as an instrument, but I didn't want it to be flooded with piano stuff. So Blur Stem started as just a piano-centric thing. Again, very just casual, like just like throw stuff out there for fun, and then that's expanded and so on and so forth. And there's all I can pinpoint as to why I started new monikers, but it all kind of sums up to, no, I do not have a strategy. There is no master plan. And yes, it's mostly just because I like writing lots of music. Lots of different styles, and here we are.
Yeah.
I've littered the earth with music.
Yeah, well, with some great stuff. I mean, good grief. Really grateful it all exists. I mean, there is something really sweet, man, to the idea of, and don't get me wrong, like I love the proactivity when people say like, hey, I want to exist in that space, so I'm going to go write that stuff like that. I think that's great. Like, more power to you. Go do the thing and do it well. That's awesome. But there is kind of a sweetness to you just continuing to create. Like, let's, put in the practice. And for you to get excited, I mean, like Blur Stem, like the Wurlitzer piano, for you to just genuinely be getting excited about creating in that new way. And then on the back end to be like, well, okay, maybe, I don't know if, like I want to keep Elskavan not quite as piano-y. So maybe this is a new lane. I think that there's some sweetness, some organicness to that might inform some of the creative decisions that are made, and that it's not as much like I need to, I need to check off these boxes and create a solo piano album, but more like I am finding a lot of joy and a lot of fulfillment in creating this way. And well, okay, let's figure out how to create a home for it. And so there's a lot of sweetness to that, man. That's cool.
Thanks. Yeah. And I think there was like a period where I did start having more monikers and I would really wrestle with myself. Like, and not that I still definitely wrestle with myself and with things.
Sure.
But in this thing we're talking about, I had a period where I was like, oh, am I just like spreading myself way too thin? Am I devaluing my releases? Am I not leaning into the potential of having just one project and band and really going all in on that? I think there is something to that. I really do think there is. When I have so many monikers and releases, I think there is a sacrifice there.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think I just decided at a certain point that like, this is kind of how I'm wired. Like this is, and it goes back to, like you said, a joy and fulfillment for me is it's like in writing a lot of music. And so it is what it is. Is it a perfect thing for me? No, not necessarily. But when is life perfect?
Never perfect.
When is our music pursuit? When is our creativity going to be perfect?
Yeah.
Never. So I don't know. Embrace how I'm wired. That's just what there was kind of like almost a light bulb moment where I was like, and also I think there was something too of like fear of what other people think or like being sure of like, and then I just realized like, I think there was sort of a light bulb moment maybe 3-4 years back where I was like, this doesn't matter. Like what, I don't think people are thinking about me as much as I'm thinking people are thinking about me. As much as we
would like to assume so.
I know. Yeah.
They're just thinking, Yep.
Like even, it's just not happening. So I just need to stop worrying about any of that. Yeah. But then also just like the thought of like spreading myself thin or am I sacrificing something? Well, who cares? I don't know. Sure. If you're just pursuing what you want to pursue and you're pursuing how you're wired. And I realized like just coming downstairs and writing lots of music, like that's a dream for me. So if it just kind of like happened that there's lots of projects and lots of releases and it might be sacrificing some things, that's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just going to go for it, you know? Totally. Doesn't mean I don't wrestle with the details, of course, and always try to improve and always try to figure out, am I saying yes to too many things? But as a whole, I needed to stop like doubting myself or questioning myself and just kind of like go for it and let it be what it is, you know?
You're right on, man. And just even hearing you talk through that, it just brings this to mind. And so I know that I have a couple monikers out there, nowhere near the collection that you do. And I don't think that that's how I'm wired, but in not in a derogatory way towards, but there are enough other projects outside of just Dear Gravity that I do. And it's funny because like subconsciously, I think as a musician, as a composer, creator, producer, whatever you want to call it, there can be this subconscious lie that along the lines of, am I spreading myself too thin? Am I trying to do too much? There's this subconscious lie that like, if I do in fact spread myself too thin, something is going to be irreparably damaged. Like I'm going to kill something and there's just no hope of that ever recovering whatsoever. And as silly as it sounds to say it out loud, like I think we can really, as humans, like we can think like that a lot, right? But like the reality is like there are times where like I haven't given as much focus to Dear Gravity as I've wanted to, perhaps, quote, spreading myself too thin. But like what is the worst case scenario in that moment was I just kind of have this, well, that's it. And what do? I go to my calendar and I make more room for Dear Gravity. Like that's literally the worst thing that happens is I just kind of get frustrated with the lack of imbalance. And so I just go try to rebalance it, if you will. There has to be something to us just responding to how we're feeling about it. Like if you're getting really excited about a particular project and it's bringing you life, and kind of what you said, where you're acknowledging, how you were wired, there's something really truthful about this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing right now. And just kind of walking into it with that confidence, as opposed to it being a question of like, I'm going to go do this thing. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing right now? ? And I think that in and of itself can probably inform your own creative approach to that thing and can probably handicap you more than you realize if you're not just like, I want to do the thing I want to love. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And also there's something to just giving yourself the freedom to have a creative playground. And I mean, like if I only, let's say theoretically you only have one project, one band, and it does become really successful or blow up or whatever your dream looks like for that, whether that's like touring the world, whatever, that in a lot of ways be really awesome and kind of in other ways, it would also bring new challenges.
Right.
Or new unfulfilled desires because you have to maybe focus on whatever, more the traveling or more interviews or whatever it may be. And or there's more pressure from label fan base of like, this project should sound like this.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, it's like, I look at it and I'm with some of my very side projects, whatever you want to call it. It's like the side project, whatever you want to call it. You know, not that I have to label any, but I look at that as sort of just like a totally free playground to just like, and I even, not even like as far as like responsibilities or whatever, but I even mean just like creatively. So like if we're just talking about the music, it's so hard for me sometimes to even like Elskavan I've been doing for 15 years. It's like, it's so hard for me to take myself out of like, well, Elskavan quote unquote should sound like this or whatever, or should not sound like this. So that's where a new project has actually really benefited me creatively in that. Like, I'm trying different processes that I wouldn't normally let my brain try, you know, for this thing over here. But then I can use those processes that I've messed with in this playground over here, as I call it, for an Elskavan or for this album that, you know, and they kind of like feed each other creatively is kind of like something that I've kind of learned. I didn't like pursue that, but that just kind of like naturally happens when you have a lot of different avenues you're trying or pursuing. I found for sure.
Well, no, that, I mean, that it brings to mind the idea of, there's been a little video floating around of the idea of productive procrastination, where this person is, you know, just walking around and like doing all the little like cleaning up the house and you know, I'm gonna feed the cat and I'm gonna blah, 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 where there's actually this list of like work stuff that they really should be doing and they're just kind of avoiding it and doing that. And like, I appreciate the mindset of like, if something needs to be done now, like do the thing now. But coming from a creative perspective, kind of exactly what you just said. If there's something, this might be a little bit of a left turn from what you said, but it's just, it's hitting me. If with, say, Elskavan, if there's something where you're like, I think I've said a lot of what I currently can say in that Elskavan lane, and there's nothing, like if I were to make something else right now, it would be me making something for the sake of making it instead of like I'm compelled to create more music for that lane. But then bouncing around, you quote, productively procrastinating by doing these other projects and you know, just like you said, like getting into a different mindset, a different set of fences around the project, a different practice, a different instrument, a different, you know, entire signal chain, however you approach it can be the very thing that, like you said, that you need. Then you look back at your main project or at any other project and you're now in just a little bit of a different headspace and are going to approach it with the health that you need to do a cool thing over there. And so I love that you've almost created these opportunities for you to keep, you know, it's not just playing around. I say play with this or play with that, but really, I mean, you're creating some incredible music in a bunch of different genres and different lanes. How cool to be able to flex the muscle over here so that it then almost gives you, you know, it's like today's leg day and it's like, cool, that's great. But then you don't want to do leg day again tomorrow because it needs time to like kind of recover. But, and you in a way have kind of created the opportunity for you to take a day off after Elskavan day, if you know what I mean, if that analogy tracks through. And I think that's really healthy because, dude, I don't see any signs of you slowing down in the best way possible. I mean, just for you to continue to say yes to creating music, whatever that looks like. You are an inspiration to everyone around you with your continually prolific approach to the whole thing. So keep it up, dude.
Thanks. Well, appreciate that. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about Sonant. Again, one of your incredible projects that is now available on allambient.com. I believe that the stuff that's available on All Ambient is stuff that you did together with Andrew from Ambient Endeavors, right?
Yeah. Talking about the Slow Echo EP. That's, Fading Lights with Shibsy.
That's Shibsy. Andrew.
Also,
yes,
a Minneapolisite like us.
Man, we are multiplying around here. It's great. Tell me a little bit about it, man. I'd love to hear the approach, the sonic approach, what you guys are aiming for. I know that, you know, certainly Slow Echo as a label has sort of a specific sound or a specific set of guidelines that winds up getting released on there. But tell me about your creative approach to it. What did that look like for you guys?
We just like tossed stuff back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
We never like even got together in person for this one, even though, again, like we were saying for this podcast, we could have quite easily. We just didn't, and that's okay.
We're just lazy. No, you got the mode of work. Just here. Okay, here we go. Yep.
Ambient Midwestern introverts. We all live
Sounds
5 minutes
like a
away,
support
but
group. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Shh. It's invite only. No, I don't even remember very specifically on these other ones, other than like, I think most of it started with Andrew. So Ambient Endeavors is his artist name, but he also does like awesome pedal reviews, guitar reviews, tutorials, the whole bit. He does that so well. So he, I think he was just jamming around with new pedals, if I remember right, just like trying stuff. And then would just like one song on here is 7 minutes, another is 9. And he might have even sent me, if I remember like even like longer recordings. And I just kind of like, and then he would send me stems or whatever. And again, some of these songs are different, but this is kind of what I remember as far as the process is like he would send me ideas and then I would kind of mess with them.
Yeah.
And then maybe send back once or twice, just like doing different stuff. So most of the guitar work, which some of the stuff you could probably hear guitar, other stuff that he did and or how I processed it, it's probably not necessarily easy to hear like, oh, that is electric guitar. But guitars are all Andrew, and then I added some subtle stuff, probably like synths and stuff like that. But then did some of so I like playing music for sure, but I also really love processing music, and that could be mixing, I guess, per se, but it's all kind of blended.
No, I hear you.
But I mean, just like, man, whether it's my own stuff that I just wrote and recorded and I'm messing with, or sampling my stuff from years ago from a different song, or in this case, like a collaboration. So like getting recordings from Andrew and like bring them into Logic. And then even though it's like these audio files are here, just like, okay, now it's like the beginning of something new. So it's like, I do so much with like pitch changes and warping speed and like reversing and like messing with plugins and like sampling onto tape and back and all these like experiments with audio.
Yeah, you're an outboard gear guy for sure, as well as all the inbound.
Yeah, I do some stuff outboard, but a lot of it is just like messing around in the box, even just like in Logic. A lot of I've just like not started for years, but a lot now more so than early on of like, here's audio, now let's get weird and like mess with it, and that's like in and of itself a sound on this EP and probably a lot of new Sonant in general.
That's really cool, man.
If that makes any sense whatsoever.
It absolutely does. And I think within that and not that your stuff doesn't sound amazing, but I kind of love how you seem to hold everything a little less precious than it actually is, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Where it was like,
100%.
It's okay to kill the darlings, and also like to arrive at a cool outcome no matter how the heck you get there. For instance, and we didn't even talk about this beforehand, but like you and I, we have a project we're working on together. That's whatever, moniker number 17 for you or that, but it's going to be great. I'm really excited. But we were together in your space and doing some stuff. And one of your sons comes into the room and says, hey, Dad, checking it out. And we were working on one of the songs. And I think at some point, I don't know if he just grabbed the drumsticks by the snare drum or if you were like, grab your...
No, he would have just grabbed.
Yeah, well, there we go. That's perfect. But he started grabbing and started, just like hammering out some vibe. And how cool it was that, you just captured it right away. And then, of course, go into Logic and you bend it around and quantize and do, all the effects chain stuff that you want to do with it. And at this point, it exists as kind of a really cool moment in one of the songs that we're working on. And so I love, there's almost a playfulness that comes along with that, right? Like there's this, and again, like not holding it so precious, like, well, was it recorded with the right technique and what maybe that's cool that my son did it, but maybe I should re-record it myself because then that'll be, less quantized because if you quantize it, it's going to mar with the transient, you know what I mean? Like you could argue so many different ways around it. And so I love in a lot of senses that at least it appears to me that you kind of just don't care Chris.
Yeah.
And I mean that in like the best way possible, because you arrive at some great stuff because of being less precious about that. And I think, frankly, it also just gives you a lot of speed to what you do too. Like you're not hung up on dissecting all that stuff. And so, yeah.
100%. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a huge part of my workflow and process and creative, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That I've gotten to is not caring to a degree.
Yeah.
Because it's like I went to school for music production, actually. We talked about my little expensive college tour briefly, but like,
sure,
I did end up going for music production. And I do love the side of like engineering and thinking about different cardioid patterns on microphones and like XY positioning and things like that. I really do love that, and like really diving deep into EQ and compression. I love that to a degree. And then I also just go, does it sound good? And that is the most important thing to me. Do you like it? Meaning you as a creator, me talking to myself while I'm writing. But it doesn't mean I'm like abandoning ship on a lot of the studio things I've learned or whatever. But I think it should and always feed your creative soul, and so at the end of the day, does it sound good for this thing you're trying to create? Absolutely.
Well, I think Rick Rubin talks about that a lot, right? I forget which interview it was during, but just the idea of there are great standard practices to production and post-production and all that. Like there's a lot of really good stuff in all the knowledge you were talking about, all the EQing, compressing, limiting. I mean, there's so many things we could dig into. But I remember him saying like, okay, that's all good and well, but if you like how it sounds when it is just slammed against a brick wall on this or that thing, it doesn't matter if the standard practice is to do it the exact opposite. Like if you like it, then that is what's right.
Yeah.
If it is an intentional choice of yours, then do it and do it with style, right? But like on the flip side, it is great to learn. It is great. Like, oh man, I was getting this, kind of interesting vibe. And if I would have just tweaked those settings, it probably would have turned out cleaner. Like I would have gotten a different result. And it's great to learn. But when you go beyond those breakers, and they're great rules, but they're also, we know when to break them. I think that's a big deal. And I hear you break a lot of rules, but you do it in great ways. So yeah.
Yeah. Breaking rules all day.
You criminal.
I know.
If you're cool, Chris, before we wrap up, let's jump into the all ambient lightning round. Are you ready for the all ambient lightning round?
No.
No,
I'm never ready for lightning rounds ever.
That's kind of the point of a lightning round, right? That's good.
Ready or not, here it comes.
Here we go. Well, so just off the cuff answers. They can be short, they can be long, whatever. But just first thing that comes to mind. Chris, what are you?
Pizza.
Love it.
After the question. Sorry.
Okay, lightning round done. Pizza. Perfect. I'm hungry now.
Yeah, I know. That sounds pretty good, actually.
Chris, what are you geeking out about right now? Some album or of yours or of somebody else's, some gear, something at your house, whatever. What are you geeking out about right now?
I'm geeking out a little bit. It's geeky, but it's
perfect.
That's right. So it's fitting.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm kind of geeking out on this method of recording vocals, although you could probably use it on a lot more than just vocals, or like use this idea. But I've been like doing this thing where say I'm in the key of G, right? I record vocals in the key of G, right? But then I'll like bounce a rough mix of the song, the whole song, or a vocal section, whatever. I'll re-import it, throw it down the timeline, and I'll pitch it down a full step or a semitone or two. And so we're in the key of F all of a sudden, right? If I go 2 semitones and I record vocals in the key of F, right? And then if I want to get real wild, I'll copy and paste, duplicate later in the timeline, and I'll go up. So I'm in the key of A. Then I record vocals in the key of A. So then once you have all this, and it's all the same, right? So it's like 2 or 3 tracks of the melody, verse melody, and then the chorus or whatever, just to, it could be whatever. Harmonies even maybe. Oohs and ahs if you want. However crazy you want to get. And then I'll bring the key of F vocals back to the original, and I'll, obviously pitch those back up to G, and then I'll take the stuff in A, duplicate, bring it back to the main timeline in G, pitch that down. And then, so in and of themselves, those vocals sound really wonky, But then you can also like put Alter Boy on there or like a plugin that can do form and pitch and like mess with that. And then all that stuff blended together just gives me such a unique layering of sound on my voice. And I've been really digging that. And I went like wild on it once. I think it happened. I don't remember how I first thought of it. So that's like actually, believe it or not, kind of a subtle way of doing it. Because I still have my natural key of G vocal in there. And then you're layering with these other ones. I did like, and these are unreleased and maybe they're mom child project. I don't know, but it just like happened where I did it like 6 semitones down. So it's like way, it sounds so wonky. It doesn't sound like me at all. And then you mess with the format a little bit. So it's kind of that chipmunk sound, but it's not really because you're messing with the format. But it just totally sounds like this. It sounds like human, but it also just doesn't. And so it depends on how wonky you want to get. But I have been geeking out on that. And I've done that a little bit with like guitar, and it sounds less wonky with stuff like the guitar, but it gives it a cool character. You know, it's like, oh, is he like finger picking a baritone guitar there or whatever? So you can mess around with anything. I do with drums all the time, you know, like drum layers or whatever. So I guess messing with pitch is one.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I like just running it through multiple stages to arrive back at kind of the same destination, but like you got there by a different way. And so just like the tread underneath the tires is going to be different if you go on a dusty road as opposed to if you just go straight down the freeway, and just kind of what that introduces into the path. And I love that. That's so cool. That's awesome. Yeah,
it's really fun, and it gives it such a unique flavor thing, feel to it.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, man. Lightning round number 2. What is one weird thing about yourself that most people do not know?
I keep thinking of things that people don't know, but I'm like, but they're not, it's not weird. You know, like I love mowing the lawn. I can't wait to mow the lawn, but that's not weird. That's just that's just dad life.
Well, but it's to embrace a fully formed suburban dad life in the midst of also being like a widely influential, you know, creative force in the music world. Like it's kind of a fun juxtaposition all in itself. So yeah.
I mean, there's that. And then like, it's definitely not weird either, but not many people know, but I've really enjoyed cooking the past couple of years and like trying all sorts of different experiments. And like, I kind of knew how to cook, but not really up until a few years ago. And now I'm trying all sorts of different things. Gosh, I don't know.
That's awesome.
Maybe I'm just
that if that doesn't strike me
weird as I get. It's not very.
That's like
weird,
a whole new YouTube channel right there, like cooking with ambient or something. I don't know, like you've got one of your 490 different
ambient cooking,
different monikers and something. I don't know, just playing some soundtrack.
Instead of eating in 20 minutes, you'll be eating in 12 hours. Ambient cooking.
Oh man, that's really good. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, that's so cool. I love it. Keep mowing your lawn and cooking your food. It's great.
Okay, yeah,
it's great.
I will.
With pleasure.
Stupid.
Chris, you can be as controversial with this one, or you can stay as squeaky clean as you want. What is something that you believe that almost nobody agrees with you on? It can be as lighthearted or as deep down in the depths as you want to be.
I believe the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl before I die someday. I believe, man.
Gosh. For anyone unaware, like the Vikings have never, ever won the Super Bowl. They've gone multiple times, not like a boatload of times, but even getting that close to the finish line, they cannot close the deal. Sometime within your lifetime, that would be really cool. That would be fun.
That would be fun. Those are the worst lightning round answers you'll ever get. But hey, at the very least, I implanted the idea of pizza into people's minds.
There you go.
So that's a blessing, I think, regardless. So.
I love it. Okay, last question for you, man. What would you tell the beginning musician version of yourself? So like you go back to 16-year-old Chris, who is picking up his brother's guitar and just getting into it. Like, what would you tell that version of Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say kind of what we were talking about earlier. Just like right now, embrace how you're wired as a creative, as a musician, as a person. And and just don't worry about following a template of what something should or shouldn't look like as you pursue music. Because I did that for so many years as far as like what I pursued. I wouldn't have said it or like thought it necessarily like this, but it's like, okay, I have to follow this template of like whatever it is, you know, like you have to tour that or get signed or like the band has to be the one main only thing, whatever. And not that there's things wrong with pursuing being inspired by other artists or things in, you know, the creative world or whatever.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's just like, it just goes back to like learning about yourself. How are you wired? You know? And so that's what I would say. It's just, being true to yourself and embracing how you're wired and then get after it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Get to work.
Well, and you have gotten after it, man. Grateful for you modeling that well for everyone around you and all the awesome music that you've launched into the world that people get to enjoy across all the genres. Super grateful for that. Chris, what's coming out now of all the projects that you got going on? Is there anything coming up here that we want to make sure that people do not miss the chance to go listen to?
Yeah, man. I mean, per usual, just always writing music, always releasing music. So I mean, for Elskavan, I got a remix. I put out my album Origins last February.
Yep.
Which, you know, was definitely like a main baby. I just like, and that was like going back to our conversation of like allowing inspirations of other projects kind of inform and like give myself freedom to creatively pursue kind of a blank canvas. That was definitely that album Origins was that for me. So I guess, the invitation to check out that album, but then there's also a remix album where every song on the album is being remixed by a lot of great artists, like some friends of mine, some artists I really look up to. Hammock, Goldwind, Blank Forms, John Hayes, Alaskan Tapes. I'm going to forget some of the others, but like a lot of great artists that I just really admire. And so that's exciting. That's going to start coming out this fall. And then album out probably in February. Blur Stem, I just put out an album as a recording called Safe Travels Old Friend, which was a fun one. Where it's just like going back, taking audio and processing things. So I did some playing of piano. It's not all piano, but it's very piano heavy as far as a source. But you might not even notice it as you listen to it. It's not like, oh, this is a piano album. Because the whole point of the creative thing of the album was just like mangling the piano audio. And like I did granular synthesis, I did sampling, I did lots of processing with effects and all that. So there's that. And then, other things. So I got a Sonant album coming out as well later this year. And
awesome.
So just lots of music.
I love, not that I expected anything less, let's be honest, but really good to know. Yeah.
And then the only other, it's not non-music because it's very music heavy, but it's just like, I've been starting to release more YouTube videos of like, I'm starting this series or whatever I want to call it. It's a playlist on there of like, I'd call it Be a Fly on the Studio Wall. And I've just like started just like opening up sessions and or like writing and just like putting cameras up and Logic screen. And then, so it's kind of like a live stream in that sense, but it's not live stream. I don't have to worry about that. And it's just like 10, 15 minutes. So this has been exciting and fun. So we'll see where that goes.
That's awesome. Keep flexing those creative muscles, man. Gosh, I am just grateful that we get to run in some of the same circles, man. Like I'm promise you I'm not blowing smoke. You're modeling a lot of things about the creative pursuit really well to everyone around you. And whether that's real around you, like right here within this circle up in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, or just in the World Wide Web out there in the virtual space where people are aware of all the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
You're modeling it well. And
thanks,
that is no small thing. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm very excited about our stuff as well, which
can't wait.
The world will know eventually.
To be fair, it's not quite an all ambient project, but
it is not.
It is quite far away from that. But regardless, it is just a joy to create together, man. It really
super
is.
fun. It'll be really fun to see where that goes.
Absolutely. Chris, grateful for you, man. Thanks for being on the All Ambient podcast.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you again for listening to the All Ambient podcast. Music throughout today's episode is all from the catalog of Chris's moniker Sonant, and you can find all of this music along with a bunch of other incredible songs, bundles, and other resources from an amazing group of composers and producers at all-ambient.com. And be sure to use the promo code podcast25. That's podcast25. And you'll get 25% off of any product at all-ambient.com. It's a great opportunity to save even more on an incredible resource for your next film, video, or project. Don't wait for another second. Head over to allambient.com and use promo code podcast25. Again, that's podcast25 25 to get 25% off of your next purchase. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so you can catch every conversation we have with all these incredible people who share the same passion. I'm looking forward to the next time. I hope that you are too. Can't wait to see you then. And until then, have an incredible day. Here's hoping that this music and the heart behind it makes your day and life that much better. See you next time.